Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Mika and you can find me on Instagram at Yes Please Planning. Now today I'm going to be showing you how I made my cover for my A6 Hobonichi Techo. Let's talk about how I actually put mine together. It's double-sided, so we're going to be gluing 2 layers together. We're going to end up with 4 strands. As far as this closure strap goes, I made it so that one end is a little bit longer, and that gives me enough space to have a built-in bookmark. These are the supplies that you'll need. The material is a faux leather that's available at Hobby Lobby in the fabric section down at the bottom of the ribbon aisle. It's got this really lovely pebbly texture. The inside is almost like, I don't know, like a felt material. You'll need some 2mm elastic cord. This is also from Hobby Lobby in the jewelry section. You can also find this at Hobby Lobby. It's Aleene's Tacky glue. It works for fabric, it works for paper. For your tools, you will need a ruler, a pen, and some binder clips. You're also going to need something to punch the holes. Now you can use an awl, it's pretty sharp at the end. You could use maybe some tweezers that have a sharp point. And then I am actually going to be using an eyelet setter. Before I actually get started, what I'm going to do and what I would advise you to do is make a template for yourself. Get some cardstock, cardboard, cut a cereal box so you can kind of, play with it a little bit before you cut into your fabric. I'm just eyeballing it. I'm not actually going to do any cutting. I just want to show you what we're doing. Okay, so you're going to have that hole in the middle. If this is your middle line, you're going to have a hole here, and then one to the left and right of it, and then here, and then again to the left and to the right. Now you're going to be measuring this better so you can get them to be equal, but I just wanted to show you, so you can get an idea. Okay, so you're going to need to cut your piece 16.3 centimeters tall, and then 24.8 centimeters wide, and that's going to give you those are your cover dimensions. And then for your 3 holes, you're going to find the center and then go 7 millimeters to one side for one hole and 7 millimeters to the other side for the other hole, and then do the same on the opposite side. For the middle hole, you're just going to go straight in the middle and straight in the middle. Now you need 2 equidistant holes. The measurement I'm using is 7 millimeters from the center hole to either hole on the outside. So 7 millimeters this way and then 7 millimeters that way. So we've got our points marked, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to use a Sharpie for this. Mark the center points, and that's where my holes are going to be. So we're going to put holes now into our 7 dots. Now this is what you can do if you don't have the tool that I'm going to use. Basically, find something sharp and poke holes. So you can use a needle to poke the hole through there. Tweezers will work, and all so now I'm going to string it just to make sure that it's the right size. For my bands, I'm using about 80 centimeters. Start from the inside, thread, pull it most of the way through. You can use washi tape to secure this so it's not flopping and doesn't slide out. Then put your strand through on the left, down, and go back through to the outside. Okay, then go directly next to it from the bottom or from the outside and thread through the middle. This part is a little bit more tough because your hole is occupied already. You can use this as a loop to pull it through. And so the way that this works is, so you thread a needle, go from one side, go back out, and basically, like if you pull it out completely, if you keep pulling, it'll come out completely. But what you want to do is take your cord and then let your loop pull your cord through. Okay. Then go ahead and keep going. So you're going to close up the top, go through the bottom, and then you need to go back through to the inside, to the middle one, so you can close up the bottom there. So I'm going to do the same thing with the thread. So this time I want it to come out on this side, so pulling here. So I'm giving myself that loop. And then I'm going to pull it through. So now you've got your bands, and just go ahead and tie a knot. So this is your template. So now you've basically got a paper dory, and you can try your inserts in this to make sure that everything is how you want it before you go committing to your holes in your fabric. So this insert I got at Target in the dollar spot at the beginning of the year. This insert, just since I'm talking about it, it actually came with this clear cover, which I thought would be perfect as a dashboard. So put that, put this in here. My Hobonichi. I'm just gonna go ahead and thread through both. Then I'll take my Hobonichi and then thread it through the center of both of these. It's okay that this is a little bit loose, that it's just kind of showing you, you know. Okay. So that is good enough for me. I think that's going to be perfect. I'm okay with this amount of overhang, but you could always trim it a little bit if you wanted to. And if it's good, you will be able to use these holes as templates for your actual fabric. Now let's get to cutting the fabric. Now, as far as cutting goes, I'm just going to use the template that I checked and double checked the sizing for, and trim based on that. So you can use scissors to do this, or a box cutter, whatever cutting method works for you. I'm just lining it up on the bottom, since that's already basically a straight edge. I am not pressing down too hard because I don't want to accidentally bunch up the fabric and fray it. So I'm just taking my time. I'm giving it firm pressure, but taking my time and going through multiple strokes so that I get a nice clean cut. Okay, so we're going to make our hole in the middle, 3 holes here, and then 3 holes here. You can do this on the front, you can do this on the back, it's up to you. I am just going to use my template and place it very carefully over the center of my fabric to make sure that I get everything all lined up. Here I'm marking the holes so that they'll be in a straight line so that I can use my eyelet setter, but you could just keep drilling all the way through, poke all your holes with whatever tool that you have available. Now about this tool, this is an eyelet setter. I have had it for, 10 years. And basically what it is, it's a hole punch. It's like an anywhere hole puncher. And the way that it works is you press it down on your material and then press down on it. And there's sort of like a hydraulic in there that kind of makes it like a hammer. It is from Making Memories. See, Instant Setter. And I will link it below if I can find it. I don't know, it's really old, so I don't know if they still sell it. And I'm going to get some washi to see if I can use that to kind of guide my line and make sure that's straight. So I guess because of the material, or maybe my whole thingy isn't that sharp. It's leaving some little chads here. Hanging chads. Does anyone remember the hanging chads? I know all you youngins do not have any idea what hanging chads are, but comment below if you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm going straight over that so I can repunch. And this might be the reason. It keeps the chads in there. So let me get these out. There we go. Let's see. Good enough for me. I forgot that I even did this before. It's pretty powerful, so even though this is a self-healing mat, it will pretty much put a permanent mark on your mat. So if you're using this, protect your surface. I see some minor imperfections in how I did it, but it's good enough. I think it's pretty good. Before you glue both layers together, you are going to round the corners of that first side. Now, what I'm doing is using a corner rounder to make a template, and then using that to cut around my fabric here. I clamped the corner template to the fabric with a binder clip. So from here, I just used scissors to cut around this corner. It did not give me perfect corners. I'll show you the finished one that I showed on my Instagram. The corners are not at all perfect, but they're, you know, they're good enough. And as you can see, it's not round, so I'm just gonna try to be careful with cutting. And so that's how it ended up. You can see it's a little jagged, but it's close enough. The other possibility, and I say possibility because I didn't do it this way, but I figured out that my material will actually fit inside my hole puncher if I just kind of play with it a little bit. You just have to be careful exactly where you place the material so that it gives you the nice round corner. If it's too much to the side, the corner will be jagged. So it did give a much nicer perfect edge, and then I just have to trim off the bottom. So you could go that route, whatever works for you. I wanted to show you how, like, they're not, my corners from the one that I made already, they're not perfect. Like, I kind of over snipped on this side, so it shows some of the white fabric here. But once you got it all put together, like, it doesn't really show that much. And if it bothers me, I can just do a little light pink paint, I suppose, and camouflage it. I have my 4 corners rounded, and now I'm going to glue these 2 layers together. You can use a piece of cardboard, or I'm just going to use this old gift card to spread the glue. I'm just using a not super thick, but a complete layer across the whole thing. It will be 100% coated like icing. It would be easier if you could just pour a bunch on there and spread it around. You don't need to pour out that much at one time. Not a super thin layer where you pushed it all into the fabric, but not so thick that it's pooling. Like this part right here is still too thick in my opinion, so I'm gonna spread it out more. So all this excess, I'm gonna scrape it off. So you can see, there's a nice coating, but it's not super thick and pooling up. Okay, I just got another piece of cardboard to protect my surface in case any of the glue starts seeping out all over. If you have been careful with yours, you will not have glue on the outside. The first time I did it, I had no glue, but that's because I took my time. So if you are being impatient, you're gonna get glue on here. If that happens, just wipe it off before it dries. And check the other side to make sure you've got it lined up. And then press it out. Just start pressing it out. Make sure you're going sort of that way instead of toward the end, because if you're going this way, you might slide it over too much. I would say go ahead and give it some time to dry. So it's been 30 minutes. Everything is dry. I'm noticing there's some seams that aren't completely glued, so I'm gonna go in with my smaller little glue bottle after I trim everything down. So I'm gonna take my ruler and go straight up to the edge of the faux leather, and then I'm going to use my box cutter to trim it. It's really important to have a sharp blade. Otherwise your fabric is going to fray and it won't be a nice flush cut. So there are some areas where you can kind of see the fabric a bit more. I'm going to go in with my scissors and trim around it where I feel like it needs to be. You can see how this side looks a lot more finished. Like you really can't see the white of the fabric on this side. But when I turn it over, I can see those edges a little bit. So I'm going to trim a little bit, but I'm not going to go snipping crazy, because then I'm going to end up with kind of a jagged side, and I don't want it to look unprofessional. And it would mess it up, so I'm just going to go in and sort of kind of fussy cut around here just to get it just to clean it up. The next thing that needs to happen is to punch through to the holes for the back layer. Now that my holes are punched, I'm going to go ahead and start stringing the cord for the bands. Now my holes are not perfect. I'm not going to let that bother me. I think once the bands are all in there, it's going to be just fine. So I'm looking at the inside of the cover, and I'm going to go out through the middle and then come back in. I'm going to let a little bit hang here. I'm going to be adjusting everything once it's all strung through there, so it doesn't really matter exactly how much you leave. But I'm going to put some light washi there to keep that in place so it doesn't come out. So still looking at the inside, going back through to the outside, up the middle. Now these holes are pretty wide because that's the only size punch that I had, so I think both of my strands will fit in here. Okay, so you just do whatever you need to do to get both of those holes, both of the strands through that hole. Go back through. Okay, so at this point, this is what it's supposed to look like. This is going to be the fourth band. And then you have on the back side, on the front, on the outside, you've got one more little loop to go back through to the inside. And now you're ready to tie it. Easy peasy. Now I don't like to tie it too tight. I like to give it a lot of space. That way I won't have to worry about this my spine bunching too much. So I'm gonna let it out a bit so that it lays flat. Pull out a little bit more. Alright, and then tie your knot. It's okay if it's close to the top or bottom. You can move it to wherever you want it. Don't tie it too tight because you want to put your books in there and try it out before you commit. Okay, but that should be about fine. There's a little extra here, but I can always tighten that up if I feel like I need to. Now for the closure, I'm going to show you how I did a built-in bookmark closure. And if you don't want to do the extra bookmark, all you need to do is just give yourself a shorter amount of string. Okay, but for this closure, you're going to need, I didn't say the other one was 80 centimeters of cord. And for the built-in bookmark closure, you're going to need 54 centimeters. And you're gonna, if you can fit both strands in there at the same time, then go ahead and squeeze those through. If not, just do one at a time. Going to be about, I'd say about 10 centimeters. Again, this is something that can be adjusted. When you tie your knot, you're not tying them to each other. You're actually only tying a knot in one. I am not an expert knot tier, so this is what happens. Let me see if that's good enough for me. I'm not worried about that. Okay, so when you pull it, it's going to stop that side, but then the other one can still come out. But when it's being used as a bookmark, you're not really going to have to worry about that. At this point, it's time to put my books in there. So because my Hobonichi is so heavy, it kind of pulls at the side, but I'm not worried about it too much. As long as I make the bands a little looser, then I can always sort of play around with that. These are pretty much good enough for me. So I'm gonna go ahead, they're not too tight. For the bookmark, basically all I need to do is just bring it on down, and then it's hanging. So you can, there's a couple of things, let me see. You can tie a knot on the end, you can hang a charm on the end. It's up to you. I said, what did I say, 54 centimeters. You may want to go a little bit more if you plan on doing a lot of dangles. Like I just, was playing around with it. I just added one little charm. So that's up to you. And there we have it, a pretty solid looking A6 Traveler's Notebook. That's it, friends. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you sharing your time with me. Make sure you like the video and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, come on over to Instagram and say hi at Yes Please Planning. Bye-bye.